Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Iren. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have been tracking this idea of a larger impulse that could still take place here. So it is quite a fragile interpretation because within this wave 1 not only would we need to be tracking it as a large leading diagonal, but we would also need to consider here a truncation within the fifth wave. And while it's not a possible interpretation, we do need to be aware that there is a significant risk that even after building this wave 3, even within an impulse, there is a good chance we may not hold the area of support for a wave 4 afterwards and get also the fifth wave to the upside. But with that said, even if this is not a wave 1 to the upside, even if it is just a wave A, and we get here a wave B correction and a wave C, we can track the exact same structure within this wave C. You see, the wave C could be also an impulse. It needs to be a 5-wave move, but not an impulse, but it could be an impulse. Yeah, we could be tracking the exact same structure. We are tracking within this wave 3 in the other interpretation where this would be a wave C instead. And that is exactly what we will be going to do. We will focus on the internal pattern within this area as long as the relevant levels of support hold. Here we have a double 1-2-1-2 setup, a third wave up, and this would be a fourth wave correction where now we would be tracking a fifth wave to the upside. There are many scenarios that could work within this chart, but as long as we hold the areas of support for continuation higher within an impulse, we are going to focus on that. And so far, we have been interacting wonderfully with this area of support. In fact, we had it at the levels between the $51.7 all the way down to the $33.5. We had our 3-wave correction into it. We interacted wonderfully with the 38.2% retracement a couple of times. We had created reactions to the upside from it, and then we pushed perfectly into the last level of support, from which point we created the most significant reaction yet. And we might even be, in fact, within the fifth wave to the upside. Now again, other scenarios are possible. It is very much a valid interpretation that this is building a larger diagonal pattern, but right now we are holding the levels of support. We are still able to track this idea of an impulse, and the market could still allow this structure to be an impulse. It could still work into this interpretation. Now, we do also have relevant resistance levels we can track within this area. Now, not too significant because we only have a 3-wave pattern to the downside, which is a positive sign. It is a sign that this structure may be complete in the wave 4 and that the fifth wave may be unfolding. But we are still watching here the levels up to the $64.4, where a break above the 78.6% retracement in yellow would be a decent signal that this structure has formed a bottom with even higher likelihood. Especially it would be even more the case if we manage to build a 5-wave move to the upside while doing so. Now, within this structure, we have been, of course, attempting to track a possible 5-wave move, but unfortunately, it can only be done within the idea of a larger diagonal structure. This would also need to be a leading diagonal, even if it does manage to build the entire 5-wave move to the upside. And sure, technically, we could even track a series of 1-2 setups within this area, but the internal structure is really telling me that this is very, very likely going to build within a corrective pattern. These internal waves, the subwaves of this 5-wave move to the upside do seem to be highly corrective, which is why I'm not going to focus on the idea of a series of 1-2 setups. Now, within this area, we have been tracking the third wave in the previous video. We were even looking for the ideal target to be reached, and we hadn't gotten to it just yet, but it was only a matter of time because here we had the ideal target at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1 around the $53 level. We achieved that. And now I might even be able to actually consider that this structure within the wave 3 has a full count. I might actually not need any additional highs before we start our larger correction within the wave 4. And of course, it is possible. I'm certainly considering possible extensions within this wave C to the upside, especially since, based on the previous scenario, the previous count we were tracking within this tiny time frame, we didn't manage to follow it through too nicely. I was actually considering a more clearly defined wave C to unfold within this area, where it might have even formed an impulse, and this just doesn't seem to be the case. We are able, however, to track this as a full wave C up to this point, to have the wave 3 top here, a wave 4 correction here, and the fifth wave that, to be honest, could have already topped. We already have here a 3-wave pattern to the upside that we can consider it complete. We don't need any additional highs for us to consider that this structure within this larger wave C is complete. We don't need any additional extensions, although of course it is possible. And for that, I would be tracking a couple of points here. So we first have a possible trend line we can track within this area. We have already 3 touch points, 3 points we created reactions from within this area, and we can track it for another touch point, for another reversal to the upside, even within extensions. Yeah, this wave 3 could extend itself. This could have been still part of the wave 3, but even this 5th wave could extend. As long as we actually hold the last swing low of this correction, we can track extensions within several patterns. But I do want you to be aware that if we break below the beginning of this 5th wave to the upside, there is a good chance a more significant top would be in place, and that we would even need to consider that the larger wave 3 would have been complete. And again, that is a realistic possibility. We did get here to the ideal target within the wave 3. It is valid. We are looking with the same likelihood as within even a more clear structure within the wave 3 has been built for the wave 4 correction. And for that, I'm watching here the levels for such a correction. And that would be between the $49.9 all the way down to the $43 level at the 61.8% retracement. Along the way, at specific levels, we do see we have structural support as well. Yeah, actually from the first to the last, we have significant structural support we can track. So here, the swing low within this correction. Another swing low within an even tinier correction here. And then the 50% retracement, probably one of the more significant ones here, the wave 2 swing low, and then the swing low for the wave B at the 61.8% retracement. This is a very, probably the most relevant. Yeah, the 61.8% retracement seems to be the most relevant level of support within this entire correction in the wave 4. And if we are to fail holding here this trend line, and I can even provide you an internal area of support for an even earlier signal that this structure is going to fail extending higher. But if we fail to hold the trend line, it would be the next signal that this structure is going to fail. And if we break below the beginning of this 5th wave, it would be an even stronger signal that this is a more significant top, that we should be prepared for the larger correction in the wave 4. This is anyway what I am focusing on. Yeah, I'm not focusing too much within the small time frame within this area that could extend higher. Sure, it's possible, but nothing too significant that I would expect with high probabilities to occur within this area. I'm not outruling even the possibility of a very sharp push to the upside. Yeah, we have often seen series of 1-2 setups trend up in such structures, in such patterns that could allow a third wave to begin. But this is for context. It's not necessarily what we should focus on. Yeah, this is to educate, to focus on the high probability interpretations, because those are going to be always what we need to track. Those are always going to be within larger time frames. This is, for example, such a case where we could focus on continuation higher from this area. It could certainly occur, and it would be no problem, but how likely is that going to provide us interesting setups, interesting profit-taking opportunities, interesting lessons we can actually take from? Not much, and that is why we are going to focus on the more relevant levels of support. Now, if this really is to be the wave 4, I would expect a larger correction, yeah, similar in proportions with what we had here in the wave 2. If we build only a tiny push to the downside, even if it is within the area of support, I might still be looking for extensions higher. Yeah, because even if this is a wave C, possibly complete, it could be just a wave 1 of the larger wave C to the upside. It could form a 1-2 setup within this area, and the third wave could still occur. But it's not going to be the high probability interpretation that I'm going to focus on. And now I'm going to watch extensions higher as long as we hold here the $43.1 level. Now, in terms of resistance, we still need to be careful because this is a point where a correction could be complete. I could be tracking this as a WXY, in which case I wouldn't need any additional highs. Although, again, not necessarily my favorite interpretation. I am not looking with high probabilities for continuation lower because we do have a 3-wave pattern to the downside. We don't need to extend lower. I will be focusing once again on extensions higher as long as we hold the $43 level. And if we manage to build here the 5th wave, we will actually have a very interesting trade setup. Yeah, we have here the initial 5-wave move to the upside. We are able to track a potential 1-2 setup with high probabilities for continuation higher within at least another 5-wave move to the upside. But for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.